one time for two time. This is why in the last 15 years I'm using this kind of composition in cinema called univisium. In Latin means the same vision from cinema, television, photography, so on. But apart from the knowledge that I went through the light, as we spoke yesterday, I did all my research in color, as we spoke, in the element. This is one of the paintings that I found in Bhutan, where we were filming Little Buddha. And this is a kind of example of all the energy of the four basic elements, and the balance between opposite elements that we spoke yesterday. This is a painting of Andrea Mantegna called The Muses that is coming from the concept of Plato once again, and he invented the 9 different names they call muses in order to visualize in his mind the creative intuition that we have. He gave a name to every muses connected with different art. Singing, dancing, literature, poetry, and so on, and so on, and so on. This is what's happened to us. Any moment that we are having an idea, we are, whatever profession we do, if you are writing, or if you are doing cinematography, if you are directing, or if you're acting, or wherever, there is a moment that we searching for a solution. We're searching for a kind of concept, an idea to how to perform our creativity in that particular area, and suddenly we have that idea. That's what Plato called the muses inspire us. Probably we have an intuition. No, different personality called in different ways. Aurobindo, for example, a fantastic, incredible Indian philosopher, said that we are living in a kind of level in our life that's called consciousness. And he said that the more we can go into ourselves, into the unconscious, the more we can elevate ourselves in our conscious. But he said that once in a while, when we have an idea, means from the level of consciousness, we go above, and we are able to look into the overconscious. And after we come back in our normal time. This is the kind they can be called in different words, in different religion, in different legend, in different philosophy, so on. But it's true, without any doubt. Anything we do, there are moments that are much more spiritual, let's say. It's difficult to materialize that concept, but it's true that sometimes we have in a dream, in early morning, in the evening, when we're watching something, we have suddenly a new idea. That's what we call it, go over the normal consciousness. This is the painting that was mentioned to you before, about Leonardo da Vinci. And this is one of the perfect balance that I ever saw in my life. When I went to, this is in a fresco in Milano, North Italy. And you know, in the Renaissance, the most important thing was to have the perfect perspective, the perfect balance, to have a kind of the respect for the proportion, merely. And Leonardo was the master of this. This is like a billboard of the Renaissance. If you look in, all the line go to him. Every single triangle is a balance connected to him. He practically put the figure of Jesus, that is identified as a human being in this moment, in the center of the world. He went beyond all the discussion that we did yesterday about Copernicus and the Earth moving around the sun or vice versa. He's putting the human being in the center of the entire universe, working with symbols. What means this? That he's a visionary man. He see beyond. And one of the greatest visionaries that we had in our life is Albert Einstein. He never proved the fact the energy E is equal m matter for light speed square. It's only an intuition, a concept. It practically changed the entire science in the world. Well, without any doubt, I said, I haven't done all this journey. And it's a journey that you never ending, you know. You continue to search, you continue to learn, you continue to grow up. But to me, to find myself at my age, being chosen to do the life of another prophet, apart from Confucius, Buddha, Jesus, now Mohammed, to me was a fantastic chance. And I said, who I can thank, really? Well, without any doubt, the first person was my father, because my father was a projectionist in a major company in Italy in the year 50, 60, and he was screening so many films that without any doubt he had the dream to become one of those people that was creating those images. And he put his own dream on my shoulder. He sent me to study photography. I mentioned to you yesterday I studied 5 years of photography. And I started to love the fact that you can express yourself in an images. But at the same time, very often I was going with him at work. I was 10, 12 years old, something like that. And I was into the cabin. And I was sitting on the stool watching the film through the square with the glass in front, where usually the projection can check the focus of the frame position. And because into the booth there is not the sound of the film. The sound is on the screening room, because there is much noisy into there about the machine moving, the carbon sound. So my mind, as a 12 years old, in watching film like that, was that the image, the cinema is a language of images, which is true. So I was more and more and more falling in love with the moving images. And I had feel the need that I have to study not only photography, but also cinematography. So my will was to go to the Italian Film School, which was a very difficult to go into, because there was only 3 places all around Italy to go inside. So that means if I was losing the examination to get in, probably I was losing all my dream. Without any doubt, there are moments that we have to be very, very careful and be very, very concentrated, because there are moments when we have to really go over. And the more we can be prepared, the better can be for us to reach that level. One way to another, maybe I was lucky, I don't know, but I prepared very well myself. And I went over the examination, I went into the film school, and during the film school they showed me an incredible number of history of cinema, and I watched many, many, many films, like for example, Cabiria, from Giuseppe Pastrone, one of the Italian directors at the time. This movie was one of the big pictures that Italy did in 1914, 1913, something like that. It was a silent movie. But those movie was influenced the great David Ward Griffith in the United States to do Intolerance. But not only Pastrone could do this movie, but also all those guys. There was several cinematographers. When I saw Metropolis of Fritz Lang, I didn't know at the time, but step by step I learned that it was filmed by Karl Freund, the cinematographer of Metropolis. When I saw Napoleon, Napoleon was done by Abel Gance with Julius Kruger as a cinematographer. It was one of the most visionary films that was done in the 20s in France. Abel Gance was so visionary that practically if he made the film and he need the colors. So they were tinting the images by hand in order to give the emotional the every sequence need, in red or in blue or in green or yellow, whatever. Not only that, you know what the word Cinerama is? Cinerama is a system that was in the 80s mainly, done in the United States. There was a system that was filmed with 3 cameras, one in the center, one on the left side, one on the right side. Why? Because they need, from the moment that the television came up, to be different from the television, to have pictures that were huge screen, to have the audience go to the theater. So from the 60s on, they tried to invent any different system in order to have a very large screen, from a CinemaScope, VistaVision, Todao. Cinerama was one of that. This gentleman in 1925, 1927, felt the need to have a huge screen. So he did all the final of the picture, the last battle, Waterloo, with 3 cameras, and practically the screen was made with 3 different projectors, 3 different screens. Can you imagine the kind of visionary man there was? He was in advance 50 years compared to the other industry. Francis Coppola took this film, restored, and the father, Carmine Coppola, put the music, and he made several screenings with the live orchestra, like was happening that days in every theater. They don't have a Dolby sound in the film. No, there was a live orchestra into the theater, and he played the music of the film in different cities. They came in Rome, and I was there when they screened in front of the Colosseum. This is the movie that is very close to me, City Light, because when I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I don't remember, my father one evening came back home with a small machine. Was an old projector that looks film didn't need any longer. So my father brought that home with a little piece of film like that. I don't know if it was called film. It was something celluloid. And asked it to myself and my brother to put the white painting on the back wall of our little garden. And he screened this little segment of this film. So for me, cinema at that time was Charlie Chaplin. And every time that I was into the screening room while I was at school in the Centro Sperimentale, my desire was to see Charlie Chaplin. To me, cinema was Charlie Chaplin. So this is one of my memories. Yesterday we were talking about German Expressionism. This Fritz Lang did the Test of Dr. Mabuse with Fritz Arno Wagner, and at that time they were filming, this is before sound, they were so influenced by the expressionists in painting that they need to show those kind of conflict. And how they doing it? Because they were using filming with the natural light. They don't have artificial light in the 20. In the studio were just with canvas net. And there was a kind of soft light all over. So you can't have in images an image with contrast, an image with the duel between light and shadows. So the production designer were usually painting the shadows on the floor or against the wall in order to see the shadows. And soon after, 1 or 2 years later, the artificial light came up with arc light, so they could have light and shadows at the same time in the studio. That was a great influence. Those kind of art give it to photography, cinema, and so on, as we mentioned yesterday. What that means, all this story? That I realized that not only I have to thank my father, the teacher that I had at the school, great collaborator during my career, great director that I worked with, Bertolucci, Coppola, Bitti, Sauer, and so on. But I also need to thank all the cinematographers that before me creating the history of cinema. Because without any doubt, we are the result of everybody that was before of us. And I realize, without any doubt, if I haven't seen films with my father on his screening room, if I haven't seen film at the film school, or any time there was with my fiancée or my wife, wherever, around to see the cinema, so many history of cinema, I could never be so knowledgeable in the way that step by step I become. So I said, I have to thank those people. What can I do? I think we need to maybe put together a book to thank so many people. I remember that from Charlie Chaplin, Rolly Totteron was actually the cinematographer. When I was 7 years old, or all those people that I mentioned when I grew up, or later, more and more and more and more, all around the world, from America, from France, from China, from Japan, from Poland, from Italy, wherever, I really learned it. They give me emotion. They really teaching me. So I called a friend of mine, Luciano Tovoli, another cinematographer. I was in Tehran. I remember that he was in Tokyo doing a movie. So we were chatting via Skype or email. And I said, Luciano, this is my idea. We need to do something. Why we don't put together a selection of cinematographers? They inspired you and myself. So let's start between the two of us, let's say. And let's put a kind of number of names that give to us some emotion through the entire journey that we did in cinema. We came up that we have to select 150 names for the simple reason that one book, and this is a big book, could be more or less 350 pages. So we can dedicate a 2 page for each cinematographer. It's 300 pages. We need the biography, we need the resume, we need the thanks also, we need another 50 pages. So let's select 150 names all around the world, since ever, that really give to us an emotion. And we started to make a list. And after we said, we don't want to write ourselves about other cinematographer. I think we need some writer. Maybe there are people that I know that are since ever, they are writing about cinematography.